G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here, making a video comment for a mate of mine at VB Ed regarding Ed's recent upload, which he probably thinks of as a minor masterpiece. It's called Bananas Shouldn't Exist, bracket Eric von Daniken, wherein the dear old West Australian bean counter refloats von Daniken's hypothetical question of considering that bananas reproduce not from seed but from shoots from the root ball, and considering that bananas are found in Africa, Asia and South America, and considering that they can't be transferred around the world by birds, and they apparently must, in inverted commas, must have descended from a single ancestor in one place in the world because they're clones and they can't go from seed. Therefore, thus and because, Ed reckons that von Daniken said that bananas must have been brought to the earth by aliens in spaceships. Now, Ed, I hate to disabuse yourself of such a misapprehension, but you see, von Daniken had a bit of a literary trick, wherein on page 1 he would ask a question, on page 2 he would provide one possible answer for the question, on page 3 he would assume that his possible answer was the only answer, and on page 4 he would then use that assumption, or use that as an assumption, in order to ask another question. So page 1, is it possible that planets around other suns have advanced civilizations? Yes, it is possible. Page 2, assuming that the possible becomes the probable becomes the actual, could those civilizations have achieved space flight, interstellar space flight? Yeah, they could have. Page 4, assuming they've acquired space flight, interstellar space flight, could they have visited Earth? Yeah, possible. Assuming that the hypothetical civilization wouldn't it be nice if spaceflight has in fact visited planet Earth in prehistoric times, what effects, what artefacts, what learnings could they have left behind? And then by the time you get to page 173, he's asking you what fashion they painted their toenails in. And it's all wibnifery. In the case of the bananas, I'm pretty sure from recollections of reading New Scientist articles in which they were talking about the big worry the banana industry's got at the moment. I think it's a rust, could be a fungus, maybe a rot or a mould or something, but there is a disease which is attacking bananas, and because all the commercial bananas in the world come from 2 varieties, and one of them's suffering and the other one's at risk, they're deeply worried, and they're sending bananaologists off into the wilderness to track down the very few remaining wild banana trees in the forest remnants in Africa and Asia and South America. And what they did mention in passing was that your wild banana is about the size of your thumb, and it's got a fairly thick skin, and it's got relatively large, well-formed seeds, and it's only got a vestige of flesh between the skin and the seed, and the flesh is really bitter and acerbic, like not much fun to eat. And they gave the very clear impression that out of all the varieties of banana that there used to be once upon a time, in the 3 locations around the world where people cultivate cloned bananas by taking cuttings, they have been cloning the bananas that have the smallest seeds and the biggest fruit and the sweetest flesh for thousands of years. And before people discovered bananas, I'm guessing that under the doctrine of plate tectonics and Pangaea and Pangaea, what they call the Gondwana land principle, where all the continents once upon a time were joined up And as plate tectonics has drifted apart, the various continents have drifted around the world. I think you'll find that there was probably a stand of bananas on Gondwana land. And that's why it's 3 stands of bananas all the way around the world in the tropical zone where bananas grow well. That would be my answer to Von Daniken, just off the top of my head, you know, as a fool on the hill. No special education, but I listen to ABC Radio National and I read New Scientist. You know, Von Daniken made up a lot of shit, sounded good at the time, but if he'd had Wikipedia, he could have typed the bloody question in and got the answer before he ever bothered writing his book, and it would have stopped him writing his book. He had a kind of an inspired, illuminated ignorance which allowed his imaginitis to run free. And, you know, it was the dawning of the age of a hairy ass, the end of the age of the squarey ass. Don't you remember it? No, you were probably just going to kindergarten at the time. Yeah, the early 70s was fun to be around. So there you go, VB Ed. Von Daniken is a fucking banana. He doesn't know much about him though. And certainly no proof that God was a spaceman. Warbles on a lot to VB Ed and YouTube. Ciao. Malt liquor video. Cooper's Sparkling Ale. 5.8%. Ciao.